Now I know many of you guys are Jesmon fans, but this time instead, we're going to be focusing more on Gankoomon because after all, he is the master of Jesmon. So let's get right into it. Alright, with Digi-Egg cards, 4 copies of Gankoomon, it is your draw power card, is always really nice for the Jesmon base overall. There's really not much to talk about it because when you do attack with a 6000 DP or higher, which is always going to be something that you're going to be having for this particular deck when it comes to this combo as well. So that's really all the 4 eggs you really need as you're building your stack. Now let's talk about the rookies. 4 copies of Gankoomon. Gankoomon is just generically the best searcher of the deck, helping you go through 5 cards on the top of your deck, getting 2 hits potentially, grabbing Jesmon, Gankoomon, Sistermons. Now, the only downside for this particular deck is that it doesn't grab you Gankoomon, which I really wish it did. But other than that, you still really need to find a lot of core pieces because sometimes you do have to switch your gears and start playing the Jesmon, traditional Jesmon strategy if you really have to. Next, the 4 copies of Gankoomon. Gankoomon from BT13 is still really good because when you do play Sistermon, you can turbo Digivolve and climb through your stack that way. And with its inheritable, you do want to be gaining that memory whenever you play Sistermons. The goal of this deck is generally playing a lot of Sistermons, which is not new for any like Jesmon type of deck at the end of the day. So being able to gain that memory means more plays. So that's what you really want to go for too. And then this time around, we're just going for 2 copies of Gankoomon in particular. Because the whole deck has a lot of draw power and search power, you don't really need to maximize too much on rookies overall. But this Gankoomon is always nice because it helps you find more Sistermon. So that's it for the red level 3s in particular. Now let's showcase the Sistermons, which are the other level 3s, and then we'll transition into a level 4s as we get into it. So for Sistermons, we run 2 copies of Blanc, still really good when it comes to on-play, draw 1 card. You can also, potentially become blocker, giving every other Sistermon blocker as well, and itself at the same time is really neat, and it's really important for this particular deck because you do set up a really wide board and have a really good defensive strategy, but you can utilize offensive strategies with it later on as well. So that's it for Blanc right here. Then we got the other 2 copies from the Jesmon starter deck in particular. This one can help you cycle through more cards. By trashing 1, you draw 2. Ideally, you can just like trash more Sistermons because you can potentially play them back from the trash. That's what you want to go for. Find your pieces again, really important. And that's it for Sistermon Blancs. Now let's talk about Sistermon Shells. 3 copies of the BT61, which on plays gain a memory, but also gives you extra 2000 DP all turns to your Jesmons, your Savior Hucks, and even to your Gankoomons, Aurora Knights, and everything, which is really crucial. Again, we want to gain a lot of memory, so this is the whole reason why I changed up this ratio and prioritized this one a little bit more in this particular deck, and it's just really strong, making it like really powerful in terms of DP. Of course, we still like to play 2 copies of the BT10 one because very similar, it lets you gain memory, but also lets you Digivolve. It's kind of like an X Antibody option for the deck, which lets you sort of Digivolve and combo and synergize when you're attacking overall. And yeah, this one is the secondary one. And then the last one that you really only need 1 of is this Xiao from Starter Deck 12, which is from the Jesmon Starter Deck. This one just helps you search a little bit as well. Really nice. Gives you the reboot, which sometimes is also nice to have. So overall, Sistermons are really just about what your personal preference is. I've gone through a lot of different iterations and different ratios for Sistermons, depending on the type of approach of Jesmon decks that I've been playing. And I posted a lot of these deck lists on my AVAULT Club membership and talk about that as well. So if you guys haven't done so yet, want to see deck lists early, be sure to check it out and be sure to join. And I really appreciate the support. As well, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell for more future Jesmon support. But now let's transition into our red level 4s. BT13 Bao Gankoomon is just really good as well. It has a very similar effect to the BT13 Gankoomon itself, letting you sort of like turbo Digivolve every time you play a Sistermon. This one you're going to be resolving a lot more just because you can climb for your level 5s and then potentially your level 6 in that particular same turn. And its inheritable does exactly the same thing as the BT13 Gankoomon. Gain a memory when playing Sister, definitely the one that you want to prioritize most of the time. And then we're still bringing in the good old BT6 Bao Gankoomon here, which lets you delete 5000 DP or less Digimon when you attack, when you have a Sistermon its name in play, so that you can remove smaller things, get rid of blockers and whatnot, which is always really ideal when it comes to attacking. You don't really need to play any of the Bao Gankoomons in particular, so that's really the whole lineup you want to go for. That's it for level 4s. Let's talk about 5s. Savior Gankoomon from Jesmon Starter Deck. This one's just really good because it lets you attack unsuspended Digimon when you're Digivolving potentially. It has the inheritable of when attacking once per turn, letting you play Sistermons back from your trash or from your hand, and having that versatility is really important, which is why setting up Sistermons in the trash is always kind of ideal when it comes to the entire deck. But that's it for the prioritizing Savior Gankoomon. We still want to play the OG one from BT6 just because it lets you play a Sistermon when Digivolving. It lets you unsuspend when you're attacking if you have a Sistermon as well. Hopefully one day we'll get this back to 3, I don't know, would it be too powerful? Let me know in the comments, but this is definitely something really cool. If it ever happens, Jesmon's gonna be real hype for sure. And then last but not least, we got one Chimeramon, because again, you play a lot of Sistermons. In particular, you tend to have quite a bit of level 4s on your board. So then you can potentially DNA if you ever need to, make an extra swing, which can kind of help with a lot of like versatile and aggressive plays if you ever want to go for it. I have been meaning to want to, include at least 2 of these, but again, deck ratios and the deck space is just really tight and it's kind of hard to prioritize. Therefore, one at the end of the day, I just settled down for that. Level 6 is, we're gonna show off Gankoomon first because this is a Gankoomon focused deck where we actually do play the Jesmon starter deck Gankoomon. Now, the whole reason why we want to play this one is because it only costs 3 to Digivolve, and when you Digivolve, you can play a Sistermon back from your trash or a Huckmon to potentially like do searching and all that. It has the secondary effect, which we return once per turn when you play a Digimon via an effect. You get to de-Digivolve 1 on 2 of your opponent's Digimon, and you can really board control of it very nicely with it, and that's really the whole aspect of this particular one. Now, this actually isn't the main Gankoomon. The main Gankoomon we're really trying to go for is actually Gankoomon X. This Gankoomon X, you want to be seeing it as often as you can and be able to get into it as often as you can. Now, there's 2 ways to sort of get into it. One way is to Digivolve into Ganku and then Digivolve for 1 into Gankoomon X and then do your combo that way. But the reason why you want to be seeing this card very often is particularly the hard counter against ShineGrey. And the reason is because this prevents DP reduction, and preventing DP reduction really makes ShineGrey struggle to answer your board. And by doing so, you either Digivolve it normally, or you can tuck it under with Jesmon GX, which I'll show you guys more when we talk about the combo later on. Itself is a blocker. When Digivolving, it lets you play Sistermons back from hand or trash, and which is always what I like to say, ultra value. And yeah, really cool. Really nice that we get to focus a lot on this one in particular, but then we still have to talk about the regular Jesmon a little bit. We have Jesmon X Antibody. That's the only Jesmon that we're actually playing in this deck. That is the level 6 Jesmon. Just because being able to play Sistermons again from hand or trash via its when Digivolving effect is really good. Being able to pierce, being able to swing over unsuspended stuff for a little bit more of control and removal is particularly ideal. So at least a 2 of, and sometimes just in case of the Ganku package doesn't work for you, getting into the regular Jesmon X Antibody just like that is probably still another really good method to face off against other matchups. Then for level 7s, 2 Jesmon GXs, still again very powerful card because the whole point of it is to combine your Gankoomon and your Jesmon X Antibodies by putting it under, utilizing their when Digivolving effects again, swing a lot of damage, apply the aggression. As good as this deck is defensively and very difficult to make your opponent answer the board, it's still, after all, Jesmon deck, which does have a lot of aggression, and you do want to push for that game-winning plays and advantages by taking out your opponent's security as quickly as possible, and that's what GX is always there for. Okay, that's it for the Digimon. No Tamers in this particular deck, so let's jump straight into our option cards. For those who've been following me on my Jesmon videos and the channel for a little while, you guys would know I love this option card from Master to Disciple a lot. Just for the effectively 2 costs, it helps you search, it helps you reduce your Digivolution costs as well. It trashes at the same time so that it helps you set up your potential Sistermons that you can play back via all your other effects, and you definitely want to see this in the early stages of the game as much as it can. Comes out with security, does exact same thing, goes in the battle area with its delay effect, that you get to follow up and go for big combo plays, which is again really ideal and you want to see as often as you can. And then last but not least, just a standard typical red staple, 2 copies of Red Memory Boost is a little bit difficult because this is a Gankoomon deck focus, and I really wish there was a way or method somehow to search for a Gankoomon. Red Memory Boost doesn't do it. We can't play Black Memory Boost either, just because there's no consistency when it comes to early game searching. Therefore, I do have to default back into Red Memory Boost just for that searching purposes right there. So yeah, again, gaining memory to make more plays is really what you want to go for there. All right, let's now talk about all the other tech choices and other potential card choices that you guys can spice up the deck a little bit more. But a little bit of the first conversation is why we're not playing this Gankoomon from BT13. Now, honestly, I really wanted to include it, and I think it's a really cool card. That's the whole idea of the BT13 Royal Knight to portray itself. But through a lot of playtesting, Digivolving for 5 is a lot of memory to pay. Although it has 13k DP, making it actually really strong, even compared to most of the level 6s is nice, but you're often enough, you're always going to be Digivolving on top of it afterwards with your Jesmon GX combo. It doesn't really get the opportunity to shine as much compared to being in a Royal Knights deck overall. It does have that effect where it lets you play a Sistermon back from your trash when it's Digivolving, but that essentially makes it exactly the same as the Jesmon starter deck Gankoomon overall, and you're just paying more memory. And for those reasons, I just felt like it wasn't really the right time to be including this particular card at the moment, which I really want to showcase it, but just thought to mention the reason why I didn't include it. So for other cards, of course, depending on your meta, Sistermon is also still a really good one. Like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of hard to juggle between the rookies, but having the Sistermon is really good when it comes to, like, you know, meta matchups. There's a lot of cost reduction effects in this current meta, so, you know, having it would be nice depending on your local scene, depending on how you competitively want to be playing as well. Talking about other Huckmons right here, this is kind of nice to have as well. It's a rookie that gives you memory with its main effect, gives you extra 1000 DP, but you don't really need that inheritable either. And mainly for most of your rookies, you do want to be Digivolving it instead. And like I said, I think the BT13 Huckmon is just better overall. And then the other Bao Huckmon, very same reason. I think the other two current Bao Huckmons in the build is just better when it comes to versatility. There's removal for that, there's gaining memory and all that. But again, the extra DP, you really don't need it because Sistermon Xiao from BT6 really just fulfills that role for this deck anyways. And then for the other one, you guys might be questioning, why not play this Savior Huckmon in the deck, since we're playing most of the BT13 line? Now, the main reason why I took this one out is because when you play a Sistermon during your turn, this Digimon can Digivolve into a Jesmon in its name. This is not a Jesmon deck. Most of our level 6s are Ganku, which is why this is not going to synergize as well. It's going to be a nice to have. Its inheritable is still great because it gives you the capability of playing Sistermons back from your hand or from your trash for free, but because of its main effect not synergizing, I decided to go with my current lineup with the level 5s instead. That has a bit more better synergy overall. Depending on the meta, depending on your personal preference, you can always just splash in your Sistermon Blancs, or your Sistermon Xiao Awakened forms if you ever need to. Overall, this deck does really great with the current Sistermon lineup already. It would be nice to sometimes include Sistermon Blanc just because you can recover one if you ever really need to. But overall, this deck is also quite aggressive and you have enough defense on your side of things where you're really good against ShineGreymon already. So you really don't really need that. Also, with Sistermon Xiao Awaken, you don't really get to use its on deletion effect as much anyways, just because when you do, you already have your big stack established. You don't really need to grab something specific back, which is a good late game card, but Jesmon is not really a powerful late game deck to really require resources, because once you get there, you're just really super strong anyways. Okay, combos. So with the starting hand you want to see is searching pieces. Cards that let you search, Huckmon is great, and any of these kind of Sistermons that draws and search as well with Xiao is really what you're looking for. You don't have to worry about like finding necessarily to see your whole Digivolution line, because the whole purpose of Jesmon is to find those pieces as you go. And again, searching is actually more priority over than Digivolving, because eventually you will find your pieces. So of course, when you do continue to find your pieces, you know, you want to Digivolve ideally into this Huckmon because it gives you that inheritable of gaining a memory when you play a Sistermon. And then same with this Bao Huck, whether you see the other one, whether you see this Huckmon or this other Bao Huckmon, it's totally fine. You sometimes just have to do what you have to do. You can't really get to have the luxury to choose all the time, which is why you're trying to search as much as you can. But you don't want to spend too much time searching too, because when you spend too much time searching, you also want to be focusing on building your stack as soon as possible, establishing the advantage and control, because Jesmon deck, after all, is an aggro, and Gankoomon gives you the defensiveness earlier too if you get into that. So ideally you want to Digivolve into Savior Huckmon eventually. Having from Master the Disciple and memory boost is really good. Having multiple is definitely ideal so you can really pop off. This deck itself gains a lot of memory, so memory blockers do shut it off quite a bit, which is kind of difficult. Therefore, the Bao Huckmon does come in to help you remove some of that sometimes. That's really what you're trying to go for. But otherwise, once you're ready to go, depending on how much memory you want to work with, you can just be at 1 even. You want to go into either move up your Bao Huckmon and then you can Digivolve into Savior Huckmon in the battle area, or you sometimes do want to just build an erasing, and when you're ready, you go, because there's two various reasons you can. You can go off a little bit early from a level 4, which is kind of nice depending on what kind of resources you have, and you do want to, of course, play some of these Sistermons, and using these Sistermons in the early game to chip away to set them up in trash is totally fine, but otherwise for Master the Disciple helps you trash some of them. You do want to see some in trash so you can get the ultimate value out of it. So again, let's just say you start at 1, you have a memory boost, you pop it, and you go to 3. You can immediately just hard play a Sistermon Blanc right here even, just to draw a card, and you get to gain a memory with the Inheritable of Huckmon right here. And then immediately you get to Digivolve into a Savior Huckmon for a reduced cost of 2 into this one in particular, which you're going to see most often. Otherwise, it is nice to see the older one if you ever do have it, but just because this one's the more common one, so we'll go for this one right here in this particular. So you only pay 1 memory. Now you can even use for Master the Disciple as many as you have. Even if you have 2 is more than good enough, really. 1 is also nice. And this is how I'll show you guys how to do the Gankoomon combo in particular. And this is when you Digivolve into Gankoomon for effectively only 1 cost. And you want to make sure for this particular Gankoomon, you do have a Sistermon in your trash, because it can only play back from the trash. You rarely want to play a Huckmon because you don't need to search anymore. There's no Huckmon, that's going to give you a lot of value when you do so. Therefore, Sistermon is the way to go, and you want to flood your boards with Sistermons and go by that way. So you play Sistermon Shell, for example, you get to gain a memory back, and then this Inheritable with Bao Huckmon now will kick in, gaining you another memory back. So you want to make sure you're able then to go into your Gankoomon X. But prior to that, because you play a Digimon via an effect, you get to de-Digivolve 1 on 2 of your opponent's Digimon, so you can get some really nice control going from there as well. Then you want to Digivolve for 1 into Gankoomon X Antibody, and then again with the same thing, depending on what kind of Sistermons you have, you might want to play this Xiao. If not, the other Xiao from BT10 is also really nice right here. Again, depending what you really have, because then on play you can Digivolve as well, gain a memory. Again, Xiao is just very important because it gains you so much memory, and you want to see it as often as you can. Whether you go into this one for 1, gain 1 here, or you play this one, for example, let's just say, then you can immediately even Digivolve and pay 5 if you really need to. So then you can go into Jesmon GX there, pay the 5 memory, and then place something underneath. You can place another Ganku if you want, but you usually want to save this turn after turn sometimes. You can even, whatever you have at the moment, you can place Jesmon X Antibody, like I said, or Gankoomon X, or otherwise the other Ganku right here, to use their when Digivolving effects to let you play more Sistermons. Now the X ones you want to see more just because they give you a lot more powerful buffs. So again, you can play another Sistermon, or you can play the decoy one, or even the reboot one, whichever you have access to in the time. So when you do so, if you play this one, you get to gain a memory back, which is going to be nice as well. And then you get to blitz and attack. Giving your opponent a little bit more memory to work with is totally fine, because when you do, especially against ShineGrey again, there's really nothing they can do right here, because then you blitz. You can even attack over the unsuspended Digimon, because the Savior Huckmon is still intact when we did this combo. And you guys can see, just from 1 memory, you gain so much, and you gain so much advantage just like that. You swing over the Digimon Pierce for 1, 2, 3, 4 checks, being aggro. And the best part is the hard counter to ShineGrey is with Gankoomon X Antibody, none of your Sistermons can be DP reduced or returned back to the hand or deck. Not only that, because Gankoomon X and Jesmon X, they all give them extra 4K buffs until the end of the opponent's turn. So not only the ShineGreymon deck can't reduce it, they can't even reduce it down and pop 3Ks, which your Sistermon belong. And now they're all wall of blockers. It is incredibly difficult for them to answer this board, because if they don't, you simply just win the game next turn, just like that. So that's one way to get into Gankoomon X. Otherwise, if you don't see your Ganku and all that kind of stuff, you might need to suboptimally Digivolve like this, which is not ideal because you pay 4 memory, which is quite a bit. Otherwise, you might go back to the classic Jesmon combo instead to Digivolve into this one, and then go into your Jesmon GX, and then use Jesmon GX to tuck this Gankoomon X underneath. And this is hence why we play a lot of copies of Gankoomon X, because we want to see it as often as possible for it to pull off that effect when it comes to the DP reduction protection. And this is the exact same result from the prior combo. So no need to always go into Ganku. It's nice to get into this one when you do, to control the board even more. But otherwise, like I said, swing and just do a lot of damage and have the same result just like this. But other than just talking about it, if you haven't seen me pulverize a ShineGreymon deck in action with some gameplay, be sure to watch this video right here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video. In this vault, signing